So let's talk about why you want to get things out of your head. And the reason is because massive action requires clarity. Your brain needs a clear path of success to follow if you want it to do what you want it to do. Without a clear path of success to follow, what happens? Well, it resists acting. It doesn't know what to do next. And as a result, you end up putting things off. Not really the path to being a massive action taker, is it? And one of the best ways that you can get clarity is to write things down. You need to get it out of your head. You need to get lists out of your head, ideas out of your head, goals out of your head, plans, events. All these things need to be written down and moved out of your head. So why is writing things down so awesome? Well, let's look at 4 different reasons why. First of all, it prioritizes your thoughts. So right now you have millions of thoughts, or probably billions or more thoughts going on in your head right now. And in your head, there really is no distinction between what's a valuable thought and what's a superficial thought at this moment, as you're just sitting here listening to this. But when you write things down, essentially what you're doing is you're bringing distinction to the most valuable thoughts and ideas that you have because you're writing them down. You're taking them out of your head and you're saying, you know what? I want to give some thought. I want to give some action to this particular thought. So I'm going to write it down. I'm going to get it out of the soup of thoughts that are floating around in your head. So that gives you clarity about what is important and what needs done. Number 2, writing things down helps you to organize your thoughts. When you can see them on paper, digitally or physically, then you start to see distinctions in those thoughts, those ideas. You can see patterns. You can see how they can be organized into an efficient machine of thoughts and actions. Again, that's clarity. Number 3, it creates a record. So when you have a thought or an idea or a process that you write down, you can pass it off to somebody else and you can let it go from there. And if you need to reference it at any point in time, you don't have to reinvent the wheel by playing it out in your head thinking, okay, I need to go through step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. No, it's written down, ready to go. Someone else can use it. You can use it in the future. And it's so much more efficient when you do things this way. And finally, it's kinesthetic. And what I mean by this is the act of writing things down, either with a keyboard or a pencil, which is what I prefer, or a pen, then that helps you to remember that idea, that thought, that process, that action, that task, which is important, again, in order to get things done. You remember it. It's not just floating around in your head where it's easy to forget. Again, that's clarity. It's going to help you to become a massive action taker. Now, of course, there are always people who want to fight these processes. I used to be one of them. And it's easy to say, you know what, I don't want to write things down. I don't need to write things down. It's a real pain. And there are 2 reasons why most people do this and have this mindset. At least for me, this is what my mindset used to be. And that is, first of all, speed. It takes time to write things down. And I used to think that only control freaks write everything down. I don't need to because I'm not a control freak. Well, I've found out since that that's not true. But at the same time, it takes time to do this. And we think, I just have enough time to get done what I need to survive. How am I going to write down my ideas and these lists? Are you kidding me? So that's number 1. Number 2 is confidence. You think, I can remember what's important. I don't need to write it down. No problem. I never forget stuff. And we all know that that's not really true because we do forget stuff, don't we? But when you have this attitude that I just don't want to, I don't need to because of these reasons I've shared or maybe other reasons, then what happens? These same people that have this mindset or this approach and say that I don't need to write things down, they're the same ones, and again, I used to be one of them, who are stressed out about their day, their week ahead because they have no clarity about what needs to be done. Or they have no goals because they're not writing them down and they accomplish very little of significance. And that's not what you want to be. It's not what I want to be. So here's some problems and how not writing things down really manifests itself in your life and the inefficiency of doing it. The first one is what I call the replay. And the replay is when you need to recall something and you just have to go through the entire list. You ask somebody, okay, what items on this project have been taken care of? And they think, okay, well, there's this item, that item. Well, no, that got taken care of last week. And then there's this item. Well, maybe that's taken care of next week. I can't remember, but there's this item. And I know there's one or two others. And then you ask them later in the day, and guess what? They're going to do the same thing. They're going to try to recall and replay those items over and over and over. And they need to go through the entire list each time you ask them. What an inefficient use of brain power. The second problem that comes from not writing things down is the nagging. So you have these unprocessed ideas that are floating around in your head that you know you need to get done, that you want to get done, but you're not because they're not written down. And so they keep knocking and saying, hey, I need taken care of. I need your attention. And that is stressful. That creates anxiety. And again, it's not an efficient use of your mental or physical energy. Number 3, and we've all experienced this one, is forgetfulness. There's an old saying, you've probably heard it, out of sight, out of mind. And that's really true. What we don't see, we easily forget. And so when we're not writing down things that are important, that are valuable, they tend to be forgotten. And as a result, what happens over time, those lead to bigger problems, which could have been avoided if we had just taken the time to write them down in the first place. And then finally, there's mental short-circuiting. Your thoughts become like these bouncing ping pong balls in your head, and you're like a monkey that's trying to capture the one that you need just when you need it. And when you have this approach and just allow your thoughts and ideas to just float around in your head with no purpose, no structure, no organization because you're not writing them down, your mind tends to become an environment of chaos, confusion, and disorder where they're just bouncing all over the place. So let's plug the drain, okay? Don't waste your valuable mental and creative energy this way. Write things down. So what do you want to write down? Well, very simple. You want to write down your tasks, the things you need to accomplish on a daily basis. You want to write down your processes. Is there a process that you go through in your life or your business that requires multi-step actions, such as creating a video? Create a process and write it down on paper or digitally. Lists of any kind, lists of people, that would be a contact, lists of numbers, songs to learn. I'm using this as an example because I like to play guitar and I maintain a list of songs that I want to learn and practice as opposed to trying to keep them in my head. Ideas that you come up with, inspirations, brainstorms, write them down. Events, use a calendar. That's another way to write things down. Things you learn, valuable ideas, valuable thoughts. And if you just keep them in your head, they're just in the mix with everything else, with the cat videos, with the argument that you had with somebody a week ago, and you're not giving them distinction. So the things that you want to learn and remember, you've got to write them down for future reference. So how do you do it? Very simply, you want to have a tool handy for capturing your thoughts, your ideas, your brainstorms. This could be a notepad. It could be an app on your phone. Then you want to keep it simple. Whenever you have a thought or an idea that you want to capture, you don't need to write an entire book or even a page of a book. Just capture the main ideas, the keywords, if you will, in order to make sure that you remember that idea and give it some value and distinction amongst all the other thoughts that you have. And then you want to practice doing this daily, capturing your thoughts, keeping it simple, reviewing them, putting them in a place that you're going to use and reference them later. So here's some next actions. How can you put this into action right now? Well, here are 3 ways to practice writing things down right now, getting it out of your head. Number 1 is to create a grocery list and then use it. And you may already be doing this. If you are doing writing things down 101, good for you. But try this out. If you aren't using a grocery list when you go to the grocery store, create a simple list of 10 to 15 to 20 items, take it with you to the grocery store, and watch how more efficient you are at even shopping for groceries. It can have a huge impact on something like that, and it can convince you to do it in other areas of life. Number 2, do a brain dump. And what I mean by brain dump is that you want to set aside 5 to 10 minutes and you want to write down everything that you need to do this week. Big, small, it doesn't matter. If you need to order a part for the stove, write it down. If you need to make a phone call, write it down. If you need to write 5 emails, write them down. If you need to work on a project, write it down. If you need to pay a bill, write it down. And then once you have this master list of actions, then take action on each one of those items and then scratch each one off the list and experience the satisfaction and contentment that comes from accomplishing things like that and going through your entire list and knocking it out. It's awesome when you do this. So do a brain dump and then take action on it. And finally, number 3, and we talked about this a moment ago, you want to write down a process. So spend 5 or 10 minutes thinking about a process that you go through on a regular basis. Maybe this is to create a video. Maybe it's to write a proposal if you're in the service business of some sort, or maybe it's just something as simple as paying your bills. And take that process, that step-by-step process that you go through, and spend 5 to 10 minutes writing it down step by step on paper so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel each time you do this task. And when you do this, it's going to help you to find ways to do it more efficiently. You're going to incorporate new things that you learn into your process if you write it down and edit it and update it on a regular basis. And you can have all these little process machines that are helping you to be more efficient and get things done. So write things down, get it out of your head, and watch what happens when you do.